Flow doesn't flow in water. Flow no water.
Okay. Are you listening? I have. I am. All right. Sorry. Leave one of them to stir my tea.
Mr. Cotter basically just
It's a raccoon. Right. Shh. Right. Guys, because we've got so many people here, you'll need to make sure that you are semi-quiet, because if you get too loud, then the message we're trying to deliver for everybody who wants to watch at a later time will be lost. Okay, so what I can do is you'll put your hand up, you'll ask a question. Try not to make your questions, can you teach all of Year 8 in 5 minutes? Try to zero in about what you don't understand, and then I can answer that question. All right? But it's more to do with what we're trying to do today is fill in holes for what you don't know rather than reteach the entire course, because on YouTube already I've got 3 revision lessons for you already, and there's lots of other sessions I've put on there under Year 8 Science, like the mammalian heart, etc. So let's try and keep our questions pinpointed. All good? I've never live streamed before, so this is the first time. All right, so who's got a question? Yes.
What's the food reacting with in the stomach?
What's the food reacting with?
Like, yeah, doesn't it react with something in the
Can I
stomach?
tell you about what happens in the stomach?
Yeah.
Right. So inside the stomach, so the food, this is the stomach, this is the shape of your stomach, okay? The food is coming down from the esophagus. What is pushing the food down? No, it's a process. Peristalsis. So peristalsis is a rhythmic contraction that starts in your esophagus and goes all the way down to your planet. Okay? It starts off very quick. As it gets further down, it slows down. And at the very end, it almost comes to a stop. Okay, so it's quickest at the very top. Peristalsis goes quite quickly from here down to your stomach, but then as it goes through the stomach and into the intestines, it's still going, but it slows down as it gets down towards your planet. Okay, your planet is Uranus. Okay, so inside the stomach, we've got solid food. It's already undergone some mechanical and some chemical digestion. Okay? So you need to know about mechanical digestion and you need to know about chemical digestion. Mechanical digestion is taking the large chunks of food and turning it into lots of little bits of food. That allows chemical digestion to operate properly. And chemical digestion is your enzymes. Okay, so the food is still solid. The only enzyme it's come in contact with so far is the amylase from the salivary glands. Okay, inside here though, we've got a protease. What does a protease do? Yes? Well done, it turns proteins into amino acids. Protein and turns it into What sort of digestion is that? Is it mechanical or chemical?
Chemical.
Chemical digestion, because it's to do with enzymes. All right? Now, also inside the stomach, we've got acid. It's very, very strong acid. It turns the food into a liquid. It turns it from a solid into liquid. That's mechanical digestion. Okay, it's not changing the properties of the food. It's just changing it from a solid into a liquid. All good? So that's mechanical digestion. So there's some chemical digestion. There's mechanical digestion there. All right? And what do we call the food when it's in that liquid form, Miss Besant? Well, genetic, sorry? Chyme, well done. We call that chyme. Or chyme is the way we pronounce it. We pronounce it chyme, but you write it as chyme. Now, once it's liquid, it can drop through that sphincter there into the small intestine. All good?
Yeah.
Right. Any questions about that? Will? Sorry? Okay, I'm just asking, has anyone got a question about this? Yes?
What was the word you wrote down for the acid?
What's the HCl? Hydrochloric acid. Also inside the stomach has 3 layers of muscle, and they all run in opposite, well, the 3 dimensions of space, up and down, backwards and forwards, and side to side. So it allows your stomach to be like a washing machine. All right, so it also churns the food. Churning, and that's, again, mechanical digestion. Okay? So your stomach is essentially like a big washing machine, but it's turning solid food into liquid food. And that liquid food is called chyme. And when the food is turned into chyme, then this sphincter will open and it will drop into the small intestine. No more questions about that diagram? Yes?
Is peristalsis just like the whole process of that happening?
Peristalsis is the movement of the food through your digestive system.
Okay.
It's like a wave of movement, like a wave going into a beach. It starts at the back and goes into the beach. Right? Continues for the length of your digestive system, but it's just quickest at the top and slowest at the bottom. All good? No more questions about that idea? Right, we'll rub off that one and then we'll go to the next question, which is from Mr. Knox. Mr. McLaughlin, this is our first ever live stream.
That's so good.
Right. Mr. Knox, you have a question.
What's the relationship between all the systems in your body?
The relationship between...
All of the systems in your body?
That's a very large question. They work together to achieve an outcome. So the one that you should be aware of is you've got blood. Now, blood is one of your connective tissues, okay, because it connects everything together, all right? And blood links all the other different systems, all right? It links the cardiac or cardio, which is your heart. Okay, the heart pumps the blood around, all right? Sorry? You'll have to speak up a bit.
How does the blood link to everything?
How does the blood... Well, this is what I'm talking about. Blood flows through the heart. And by touching it, by interacting it, the heart is pumping the blood. There's an interaction there. That's how it generates its force. Yep. It interacts with the lungs. In the lungs, we know that it picks up oxygen and gets rid of carbon dioxide. What process is that? Gas exchange. But that is the overall name for it, but what is the particular diffusion? So we need to know here about diffusion. And what are the 5 things that we talk about with diffusion? There are 5 steps we go through when we're defining the interaction when it involves diffusion. Number 1 would be, well done. Number 1 is we find the area of high concentration. What's the second one, Miss Besant? Well done. Number 2 is we find the area of low concentration. Number 3 is the concentration gradient. Who can explain to me the idea of a concentration gradient? Juliet?
The high area to the low area and like in between that.
Yeah, so what does that mean? Is it moving from high to low or low to high? It's concentration gradient means that we're going from the high concentration to the low concentration, and that slope there is the concentration gradient. Okay. Number 4. What's the 4th thing we need to say? It's passive. What does passive mean?
That it requires no energy.
Well, doesn't require energy. Yeah, well done. So it's passive. And passive means it doesn't require ATP. What does ATP stand for?
And oh,
Adenosine triphosphate. All right. So we don't need no ATP. And the 5th thing we need to say is the process is called diffusion. Okay. Then we've got another interaction, which is in the digestive system. What is the structure where the blood and the digestive system come into contact? Do you need a clue? It starts with V, the villi. Or the villus is singular, the villi is plural. And that's where we have the structure that looks like a stegosaurus. So these things are called, this whole thing is the villi, but these little bumps on the villi are microvilli, right? On the inside of that villi, what's that bit called?
vein.
No, it's not a vein.
Oh,
The lacteal. Yep, and then around the outside of the lacteal, we've got capillaries. Right? Capillaries are where everything is exchanged between the blood and the tissue or the cells. Yes? So these are blood vessels, right? BV, blood vessels, in particular capillaries. What is absorbed by the capillaries?
glucose.
Well done. Sugars and amino acids. Sugar or sugars and amino acids. And what's absorbed by the lacteal? What's absorbed by the lacteal?
Water.
No.
Um,
Don't know. It's okay not to know.
Nutrients. Is it fatty acids?
Fatty acids is one of them. Fatty acids. Oh. Fatty acids and glycerol. Well done. Okay. So these two things here are products of fat digestion. So anything from the fat that you've broken down is absorbed by the lacteal, and everything else is absorbed by the blood vessels. Then from there, it gets taken off to the...
I was just wondering, what's the purpose of like the enzymes being absorbed? Like
What's the purpose of the...
enzymes being
The enzymes aren't absorbed, just the products that they create are absorbed. The purpose of the enzyme is so we go with sugar. Sugar comes from starch. Now, starch is a chain, a big long chain of glucose molecules. Right, 1, 2. I've drawn 6 there, but it's more than 6. It's hundreds long. It's too big to be absorbed through the villus. So they have to be chopped up. And the thing that chops up the starch is amylase. That enzyme, amylase, cuts the bonds between the sugar molecules. And so we end up with singular sugar molecules that are now small enough to be absorbed. Okay, so the enzymes don't get absorbed, but the products that they have created do get absorbed. All good? Right, and then the last thing, the last interaction is at your cells. And that's where the cells, so if there's the cell and there's the capillary, oxygen goes into the cell and carbon dioxide comes out of the cell and into the bloodstream. That's the last area of interaction that you guys need to know. Any other questions about that idea? Yes?
Is that like the only integration?
That's the one in your course. These are the ones in your course that you need to know. Okay? Any other questions about that idea? No? Sorry?
What's the idea?
The idea is the interrelationship or the interconnectedness of body systems. The last 2 lessons are about the interconnectedness of the body systems, and the thing that connects all of them is blood. The blood transports glucose, it transports heat, it transports carbon dioxide, it transports oxygen. That's why we call it a connective tissue, because it connects everything together. All good? I'll rub that out, and then we'll go for another question. Yep.
What are the male and female parts of a flower?
I'm sure I did this in class today. All right. Okay, they're in the background, they're the petals. Okay? So, let's do the female bits first. The female bits are in red. We've got the stigma. We've got the style. We've got the ovary
And the ovule.
and the ovules. The male, so the red bits there, the collective name for the female parts is the pistil or the carpel. Same thing. You can call it either. The purple bits are the anther and the filament. The anther contains the pollen, which is the male gamete for a flower. Right? The anther and the filament make the male parts, which is called the stamen. Okay? In pollination, what has to happen is that the pollen from the anther needs to make its way onto the stigma. That's pollination. The thing that transports the pollen is called a pollinator. Right over here. So we've got pollination. We got the idea of a pollinator. Now the pollinator can be the wind. It can be a bee. It can be a bird. It can be a mammal. Okay? The thing that does the transportation of the pollen is the pollinator. Some of them are alive, some of them aren't. Sometimes it's water, right? Or aquatic plants, right? Once the pollen hits the stigma, it then burrows down to the ovary to find the ovules, and that's when fertilization takes place. Fertilization is when the male gamete, otherwise known as a sex cell, joins with the female gamete, and that makes then a baby. We call a zygote. Okay? And that's a new life form from them. So if we come down to here, if this is a plant, then each one of these ovules, when they get fertilized by the pollen, will become the seeds. Okay? And the ovary will become the fruit. So if today you ate an apple, that apple is the ovary of the plant, which is the apple tree. Yes? And the seeds, most people don't eat the seeds, but if you did, they'll go through your digestive system and they'll exit, and then when they find somewhere nice to live, then they'll germinate and make a new plant. Okay? Yes?
Cross-pollination and self-pollination.
Right, I'll go through that now. Yes, I'm going to just answer this question.
Okay.
Right. Self-pollination is when the pollen hits the stigma of the same flower. Okay? Or the same plant. But it's normally the same flower. Quite often, when that happens, the anthers sit right up near the stigma, and so it just falls off and lands on top. Okay? But that gives you limited variation. Right? It's not asexual, but it's the next best thing to asexual, because your gametes are going straight to the same plant. Okay? But the act of making the gametes creates variation. Cross-pollination is when on another flower or another tree, we've got here an anther and a filament, right? And the pollen from here either gets blown or gets attached to a bee, or it gets attached to a little bird like a hummingbird or something like that. It then finds its way onto the stigma, and that's cross-pollination. That gives you a lot of variation. And we like variation because as a species, the environment's always changing. And because it's changing, if we've got a lot of variation in the population, some individuals of the species will always be alive. So the species will continue to live. Whereas everything's the same. What do you call it when a plant is exactly the same as the parent? It is identical, but there's a word that clone. Yep. So when you've got a clone, because you are absolutely identical, something that can kill the mother or the parent plant will most likely kill all of the offspring as well. So there's no variation. So any change in the environment will kill anything else that's exactly the same. Yes. Which one is the pistil? The pistil and the carpel are just different words for the same thing, but the pistil is made up of the stigma, the style, the ovary, and the ovule. Isla.
What's more common, self-pollination or cross-pollination?
Sorry?
What's more common?
It depends. Different plants like to self-pollinate. Like my chili plants like to self-pollinate, which is good for me because I get lots of chilies. But other ones like grass trees, the balga, it has male and female flowers. So it'll send up Some of them will send up female flower stalks and others will send up males. So it's impossible to self-pollinate. And that cross-pollination is better for the species than self-pollination, because you want that variation, because you don't know how the environment's going to change, but it always changes. And by having cross-pollinated, you've got lots of variation, and you're pretty much assured that something is going to be able to survive. Whereas everything is self-pollinated, they're all going to be the same. So if it kills one, it'll kill all of them. Yep.
So can your body not break down seeds?
Generally not.
Okay.
A lot of seeds require them to go through the digestive system of animals, because a lot of them have this coat on it called a seed coat. When that's removed, then it can germinate. There's a lot of plants require it to go through the digestive system of an animal, whether it's us or a possum or a bird. A lot of them require that activation.
Would a pollinator ever bring like pollen from the anther to the stigma of the same plant?
Yeah, but that doesn't really matter. If it's on the same plant, it's just self-pollination. It's just for whatever reason. I mean, if you're a bee, you don't want to go, hang on, on that leg, I've got the pollen from the plant over there, and on this leg, I've got the pollen from this plant. I don't want to get the pollen from this leg onto that same stuff. They don't do that. They go in, they get the nectar, they don't care what they rub up against. Right? Yes.
So if you get like the anther from a lily and then put it on the stigma of a rose,
It won't work.
pollinate? Oh,
It won't work.
Okay.
Because they're different species.
Yeah, okay.
That's the whole idea of what a species is. A species can only breed with its own species.
Yeah.
That's part of the definition of what a species is. It's called reproductive isolation, which is probably a little too hard for your rate. Yeah, you can't have a seahorse fertilizing the eggs from an octopus. Okay, that's the same species has to fertilize the same eggs. Ashwell, the cardiovascular system, or do you want to refine your question a bit? Do you want me to go through the structures of the heart? Right. Because the cardiovascular system is kind of large. Okay, that's what I said. Make sure you refine your questions a little bit.
Could you also go through that before?
Yeah, we will. It's all part of the same thing. Yeah, we'll go through the structures and we'll go through the sequence that it has to go through your heart. Okay? All right. So my diagram of the heart is simplistic in that it shows all of the structures. The more complicated one that has tubes going out in all different directions, you should know that. But you should be able to apply the knowledge that I'm going through now and put it into the same picture that's probably in your reader. Yeah? So, let me just move my... All right? So, purple seems to be the color of the day. Goes with your eyes. Okay. Oh, that's demented. I'm going to start again. That was looking like it's on the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Right. Okay. So the structures we need to know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So they're in order of flow. I ran out of spoons. All good? So we'll start down the bottom at number 14, which is your body cells. There's your body cells. What do your body cells take out of the blood? Oxygen. So the body cells have got, from the blood, there's the capillary. Oxygen is going into the body cells. Yes? It's also collecting carbon dioxide. What process in cells uses oxygen but makes carbon dioxide?
Cellular respiration.
Cellular respiration. Well done. So now the blood here had oxygen in it. What do we call blood that had or has oxygen in it? Oxygenated. So we know that we've got oxygenated blood here. Oxygenated blood has oxygen. Okay? But now the cells have taken all of the oxygen out. What word do we call the blood now? It's got no oxygen left in it. Deoxygenated. I'll put deoxygenated in blue because blue blood is the color of deoxygenated blood. Okay? Now, the capillary here. Oh, this board is moving. The capillary now is going to leave, and what do we call a blood vessel that approaches the heart? The vein. But what do we call a small vein? A venule. So the capillaries form together to form venules. Then the venules form together to make larger and larger veins. All right? And so now it's forming veins. But what is the name of the vein that goes into the right atrium? The vena cava.
Yeah.
The vena cava has no oxygen in it. It's deoxygenated. That's why it's blue. Then it goes into the right atrium. In Latin, or ancient Greek, an atrium is when you went to someone's house, that's the first room you went into. Right? So now blood is entering the first room, the first chamber, so it's called the right atrium. Okay? Some of you might have, when people knock on the door, they might go into a little room before they enter your house, and that's called an atrium. Okay? Then the blood goes through a valve. Now, this valve has three cusps. The tricuspid valve. Tri meaning three, cuspid meaning cusp. So the tricuspid. Okay? Now it goes into the right ventricle. Now remember, still in blue, still deoxygenated. Still deoxygenated. you did the heart dissection and you looked at the right ventricle, the wall would have only been about half a centimetre thick, because your heart sits right on top of your lungs, and it doesn't need to pump very hard to pump the blood into the lungs. A foot at most. Okay? So the right ventricle is still deoxygenated. Then when it contracts, it goes up through another valve, pulmonary semilunar. Pulmonary, the word pulmonary means lung. Right? We'll write that word down up here. Pulmonary. Right? Pulmonary semilunar, because the flaps look like half moons. Okay? Then the blood is coming up here. What do the valves do? We've got here the tricuspid and the pulmonary semilunar. What do they do? Well done. They prevent the backflow of blood. What that means is that the blood can only travel in one direction. It can't change its mind and go backwards. Okay? So now we've got the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery is the only artery to carry deoxygenated blood. And it's still deoxygenated. It's still in blue. Okay? Then it goes off to 7, which is the lung. And at the lung, it picks up oxygen. What process is that? It is gas exchange, but it's diffusion. Right. So now the blood is going to change color from blue to red. So it's going to gain oxygen. Okay? And it's going to lose carbon dioxide. So the blood's going to go red. Yes?
What number is that for?
That is 7.
But then what about the pulmonary one?
6. And what about the pulmonary semilunar? 5. And what about the right ventricle? 4. What about the tricuspid valve? 3. What about the right atrium? 2. What about the vena cava? 1. Those are like Sesame Street. The count. But I don't know if he counts backwards. All right. So now the blood is oxygenated. Veins approach the heart. And this one's coming from the lung, so it's going to be the pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein. Interestingly, it is the only vein to carry oxygenated blood. Okay? There's the pulmonary vein. It goes into the left side of the heart, into the first chamber, left atrium. Then it's going to go through another valve, but this one only has 2 cusps. The bicuspid valve, also known as, starts with M, mitral valve. So the bicuspid is also known as the mitral valve. What does the bicuspid do? Stuart, what does the bicuspid do?
Does it stop backflow of blood?
From where to where?
From the left ventricle to the left atrium.
Well done. It stops the backflow of blood, which is what every valve does. But this one is stopping the backflow from the left ventricle to the left atrium. Okay, we don't want it to go backwards. We don't want it to just go forwards. And then now it's going to flow up through valve number 12. It's going to the aorta, the aortic semilunar valve. Aortic semilunar valve. So which means this must be the aorta. It's oxygenated. And now, as the aorta starts to branch, it makes littler arteries. What do we call a little artery? An arteriole. Well done. And then the arterial become capillaries again. You only get the exchange of materials in the capillaries. Yes?
What is the ISL stand for?
Aortic semilunar.
Is that number 12 or 13?
Sorry?
The aortic.
Number 12 is the aortic semilunar. 13 is the aorta. 14 is the body cells. Veins approach the heart. Arteries leave the heart. Okay? Now, in general, arteries carry oxygenated blood, except for the pulmonary artery. And in general, veins carry deoxygenated blood, except for the pulmonary vein. Any questions about that idea? Yes.
The left atrium's bigger than the
Left
right.
atrium is like the rock. Like, and the left atrium is like the right atrium is like Mr. Bean. All right. Right side is very weak because it only has to pump blood to the lungs. The left side is very strong because it has to pump blood to the tips of your toes, the tips of your fingers, tips of your ears, the tips of your nose. Yes, it has to be able to pump all the way to your belly button. It needs lots of pressure. Yes.
Is the blue no deoxygenated and the red oxygenated?
Yes. This blue is deoxygenated. Red is oxygenated, which brings me up to another point. The mammalian heart, which is what this is our heart, like it's in your body here. So I've got the right side here and the left side here. It separates the deoxygenated from the oxygenated blood. It's got a double pump. That wall there has a special name, which is Latin for wall, septum. So the septum is the wall that separates the left and right sides of the heart and stops the oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood from mixing, which would be very inefficient for a heart. Yes?
Because the left side of the heart needs to pump blood to the right,
It's under the most amount of pressure. So when you take your blood pressure, that's the pressure that you're measuring. Or you really can't measure pressure in a vein because veins have very little pressure. So when you take your blood pressure, the high reading is the pressure during a heartbeat. So if your blood pressure was, a healthy person is 120 on 70. 120 is the pressure during a heartbeat. And then the over 70, the 70 number is how much pressure is staying in the system between beats. Yes.
What's number 10?
What's number 10? The bicuspid valve or the mitral valve. Yes.
Do arteries go all through your body, or
Correct.
They just oh.
No, they go all the way until you get to the cells. Then it branches into a capillary network. Then the capillaries join back together to form venules and then veins and come back.
Is there a difference in the cerebral artery and a vein?
Is there?
Difference in the thickness?
Yes. Shall we go through the differences between the three types of blood vessels?
Yeah.
Okay, good question, Ms. Bosnich. Ashwell? A septum means wall. Right.
Should we know this to the test?
I'm teaching knowledge. Your ability to use knowledge will dictate your mark in the test. I'd say everything that we're discussing today is useful knowledge. Whether it's in the test or not, I can't tell you. But I dare say some of it will be. I don't know. I don't know how much is and how much isn't. But as I say in my Instagram account, knowledge is power. And if you've got knowledge, then you can use it as you see fit. And so it doesn't matter what the test question is. If you've got knowledge, anytime a question comes up, you'll be in a great position to use it. Right, we were going to talk. I was going to speak to Miss Bosnich, wanted to go blood vessels. Yes.
What's the difference between the cardiovascular system and the circulatory?
Same thing.
Oh, it was like
Same thing. Same thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Can we go through the respiratory system?
I'm just going to go through the differences between arteries, veins, and capillaries, and then we'll do that.
Wait, just really quick. What's the difference between bicarbonate and blood?
That's the digestive system. Can we do that
Do
later?
we have to look for?
Sorry?
Is that like? 'Cause we didn't learn it like. Well, I didn't. We didn't learn it like carbonate and bubbles.
My class did. But what I'll do is I'll ask answer Miss Bosnich's question. Yeah. Then we'll do. Did you have it? Then yours, and then we'll do yours. Okay? Yes? No? Are you with us?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you'll be number 3. All right? So, first of all, difference between arteries, veins, and capillaries. The way it works is this. Are you ready? If here is a heart, and we know it has to get back to the heart. Yes? That's the cardiac cycle, how it goes through the heart, through the body, then back to the heart. Yes? Now, when it leaves the heart, we call that an artery, and it'll be oxygenated. Yes?
Yep.
Right, this is from the left side of the heart. Yep. Then it gets to your cells. At your cells, it gives up, the cells take the oxygen and the cells give back carbon dioxide. Yes? That happens at capillaries.
Can it only happen at capillaries?
You only get exchange at capillaries.
Oh.
Okay? Anytime there's any exchange of materials, like oxygen or carbon dioxide or glucose or amino acids or anything, it's in capillaries. Okay? Then, so now the blood is blue because it's deoxygenated. And it goes to the right side of the heart. Yes? And then it goes to the lung. And in the lungs give the blood oxygen and take carbon dioxide. Yes? So then when the blood returns to the left side of the heart again, it's now oxygenated. Okay? But anytime you have the exchange, it happens in capillaries. Okay? So now we'll go through a few differences between them. We won't get too technological. We'll just go through some of the big differences. So, artery, vein, capillary. So, we'll go here, function. Yeah, we'll go pressure. We'll do diameter. We'll do oxygenation, plus O2 minus O2. Oh, and then we'll write valves. They're the major differences. Okay? So, The function of an artery is take blood away from the heart. If you don't want to be here, you don't have to be. This is voluntary. Okay? But I'd rather you go if you're just going to distract your friends, because your friends probably want to learn, even though you seem to be distracted. Okay? There's nothing I'm going through today that I would say you don't need to know. Okay? Goes away from the heart. Okay? The vein goes towards the heart. We can also say here, the arteries, we put the word arteriole. An arteriole is a small artery. Yes? A small vein is called a venule. A capillary, its function is an exchange of materials. It's always between. It always goes. It's always between an artery and a vein. All right. The capillaries are where the blood slows down and exchange takes place. Yes. Sorry? It's where the capillary doesn't do it, but it's where the diffusion takes place. The capillary opens up into a really small network of capillaries called a capillary network, and that's where the blood slows right down and all the exchange takes place. Oxygen, carbon dioxide, glucose, anything that's exchanged between the blood and anything else happens in capillaries. Okay? Pressure, the artery is under high pressure because it's coming out of the heart. The heart is a big muscle. Okay? Veins are under low pressure. Capillaries have nearly no pressure. It doesn't have no pressure, but it slows right down. Pressure can also be thought of as speed, the blood flow. Right? So it's traveling really quickly in arteries, really slowly in veins, and next to nothing, still moving very, very slowly in capillaries. Right? If you were a zombie and someone chopped off your arm and it went through an artery, the blood would spurt out. But if it cut through a vein, it would ooze out because it's under low pressure. If it cut through the capillary, if you put a pinprick in your finger, it sort of moves out slowly. Okay? Diameter, the artery has a small diameter. Yes?
Will it have a high pressure, or will it pump out because the heart's still pumping?
Yes, every time the heart pumps, another squirt. Psst, psst, until you run out of blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much blood do you have inside you?
Exactly.
Correct. Anyone know how many litres of blood you've got inside you about? I'd say about 3 to 4 litres. Miss Nickel might have 42 litres because she's so buff. Right. Okay, but generally you've only got about 4 litres of blood. And just say each squirt was 500 mils. You can have 8 squirts before you've got nothing left. Right. Diameter is small because it needs to maintain the pressure. In veins, it's got a large diameter, and this is, what's the diameter of a capillary? 8 micrometers. Why is it 8 micrometers? Of what cell?
Red blood cell.
Starts with R, ends in red blood cell.
Red blood cell.
It is the size of a red blood cell. Okay. Arteries, are they oxygenated or deoxygenated? except for
Pulmonary.
the pulmonary artery. It's generally oxygenated except for the pulmonary artery, which is deoxygenated because it's coming from the right side of your heart. What about veins? Generally, except for the pulmonary vein. Normally deoxygenated, except for the pulmonary vein, because it's coming straight out of the lungs and going to your left side of your heart. Okay? And capillaries is where the exchange takes place. All right? Valves. Do arteries have valves? No. Why don't they need valves? Under very high pressure from the heart. Veins have valves. What do valves do?
Stop the back.
Robbie? Sorry? They stop the backflow of blood. It's always important to pay attention. And capillaries don't have valves because they're too small. All good? But as soon as the capillary starts turning into a venule, that's when the valves will be inserted into the lumen. What do I mean by the word lumen? The inside cavity of a blood vessel. Yes.
Wait, so arteries don't have valves?
No. They don't need them. The heart is pumping.
Because it's, yeah. And so the veins don't have enough.
No, because
from
they go
the
under very low
artery.
pressure.
Yeah.
They need something to make the blood squirt forward still.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was question number 1 from Miss Bosnich. Question number 2 was from Isla.
The respiratory
Which bit of the respiratory system do you want to know?
like the
Because that's kind of a large topic.
like the lung,
Like the lung, what does that mean?
like a diagram.
A diagram of all the structures. Right. Remember, these questions you ask can be rather large. You need to refine them. All right, we've got 10 more minutes. We might spend 5 minutes on Isla's question, and then we'll see if we've got 5 minutes left for... There's still a question, but she's gone home. She might watch later on, and then she can sit there with Mum, that's my question. And she say, Mum will say, but you're not there. She's, but I left that question. All right. Isla's question was about the structures of the respiratory system. Right. Are you okay?
Oh, yes.
Right. Now, if I got Triple H, this is Triple H, and I sliced him down the middle, like he's going down there, then I opened him up, this is what he would look like. Okay? There's his eye with his fake lashes. Okay? Here is his nose. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah? And there's his top lip. And there is his bottom lip. All right? And then right. Pretty accurate. Yeah. Yeah.
So his eyes aren't perfect now.
Oh, sorry. Your little beady eyes. Right. No, they are beady. Right. So here is the nasal cavity. Here is the oral cavity. Yes?
Yes.
Then it goes into the back of the throat. Claudia? Back of the throat starts with P. Pharynx, that's right. The pharynx is your throat. Yes? Then it's going to come up to a little trapdoor. What's the name of the trapdoor? Epiglottis. The epiglottis, if it's air, it puts it into the lungs. If it's food, it puts it into the esophagus. Yes? So, right. So up here, we've got our one of our first structures particular to the respiratory system. What's the fancy word for the voice box? The fancy word for the voice box. The larynx. The larynx has cartilage plates that are overlapping, and if you make them tight, it gives you the high voice. And if you make them loose, then you get a voice like Triple H.
Give you a low voice. Yes.
Right. Then we get into a structure that has rings of cartilage around it. Okay? We've got rings of cartilage. What do the rings of cartilage do?
They squeeze the food down.
No, this is in your lungs. Hopefully you're not squeezing food in your lungs. Keeps it open. Well done. So this is the trachea. Right, now we come up to a fancy word that means to split in two. Now, what's the fancy word that means to split in two? Bifurcation.
Bifurcation.
What the bifurcation?
We did not.
That's okay, because my postgraduate study is in respiratory physiology. So I like to teach my students a little bit beyond what the course is, so they got more knowledge so that they can use it powerfully in tests.
So this is actually
What about?
doesn't matter.
This is, you don't need to know this,
Oh,
Harry.
Okay.
All right, just to make you feel better until it's in the test. Then you think, oh, what's that word? Oh, bifurcation. Then you write it down. Yeah. Right. Bifurcation means to split in two. Now, the major tube here is called the
Bronchial.
bronchus.
Bronchus. That's what I said.
The bronchus is the major tube, and then it keeps bifurcating. All right. Keeps bifurcating, 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 and then there's about 10 bifurcations until we get down to the alveolus. And what do you call a baby bronchus? A bifurcated bronchus is called a...
Bronchial.
That was the one word you knew, and then you fudged it.
Bronchial. Good job, Aaron.
Who?
Bronchial.
Bronchiolus.
No, Lee.
Bronchioles.
Oh, yeah.
Triple H, I thought you were going to nail that one. Then you got all...
Yeah.
Right. Bronchioles, and then we end up at the alveolus. What's plural of alveolus? Alveoli. Alveoli, if you're an Aussie. If you're an Aussie, mate, it's an alveoli. If you speak English, though, mate, it's an alveoli.
Alveoli.
It's like the difference between chitin and chitin. If you're an Aussie, it's chitin. If you speak English, though, it's chitin. If you're an Aussie, it's chine. If you speak English, it's chyme. I'm nearly finished. They're the structures. Yeah, that's where the gas exchange takes place. And because that's where the gas exchange takes place, what sort of blood vessel is going to be right next to it, Triple H? Capillary. Woohoo! Cat. Capillary. All good?
Yeah.
Right. Now we move on to number 3's question. Yes? Right. Who are you again?
Jack.
Oh, I thought so. All right. Keep dropping my lids. All right. So the question was about, we call it pancreatic juice. Okay. What does pancreatic juice taste like?
Bitter.
I don't know. Sorry? Pineapple juice. It doesn't really. That's what we thought in class what it would taste like. But pancreatic juice is made up of, it's like all vomit has carrots, but it doesn't. So we've got the gallbladder,
Gallbladder.
okay? And we've got the pancreas. The gallbladder stores, yes. No, it doesn't store fat.
Water.
Doesn't store.
It stores enzyme.
It starts with B, ends in ile.
Bile.
You guys are so good. It stores bile. What does bile do?
It. Bile.
It. Amelia? No, it's involved with mechanical digestion. What does it do? Remember we spoke about a meat pie? 1/3 of a meat pie is made of fat, so you've got this big glob of fat in your stomach. A little bit more information required. Well done. It's an emulsifier. It turns big globs of fat into lots of little, what we call chylomicrons.
How is that mechanical, not chemical?
Because it's not changing the properties, it's changing the surface area.
Oh.
Okay? The pancreas now, its contribution is bicarb. It's also got an amylase. It's also got a protease. It's also got a lipase. And one that you don't need to know because you're only in year 8, which is a nuclease, but my class did it. Okay? So here is the function of all of that sort of stuff. What is the pH? What is the acidity level like of stuff that's coming out of the stomach? Highly acidic, right? And we need to neutralize it. The bicarb plus the acid makes it neutral. So it stops your chyme from burning the insides of your small intestine. Okay?
What stops that?
The bicarb.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
The amylase we know turns starch into sugars. We know that protease turns
It turns
proteins into amino acids.
proteins into amino acids. That's what I said.
Lipase turns, Robbie? Sorry? Well done. Turns lipids into glycerol and fatty acids. And nuclease turns, this is the tough one, turns DNA into nucleo, goes into the beach. Is determined by the moon. Nucleotides. Nucleotides. Okay? All good?
Yeah.
Yes.
If the starch has already been thrown into in the mouth, what's it like going here?
Well, because you need more than one exposure normally, and it doesn't normally sit in your mouth for a very long time, it still needs help to get turned into those tiny little molecules so they can be absorbed. Yep.
Are lipids fat?
Lipids are fats and oils. Solid lipid is fat, liquid lipid is oil.
Oil.
All good?
You have a bed.
All right, we'll leave it there.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thanks, Mr.
Thank you.
That's